Welcome back to Georgina Connects. I'm your host, Michael Gardner-Davis, and on today's show, we're going to be talking all about the housing and legal supports available in Georgina. We've got some incredible guests from the housing program at Roots Connecting Communities, as well as a paralegal from the Community Legal Clinic of York Region. Some great information is on the way. Don't go anywhere. Our first topic for today is going to be housing supports in Georgina, and I'm so excited to be joined by Brooklyn Crittenden, the Housing Services Navigator at Roots Connecting Communities, as well as one of the clients she has supported in this program, Monique. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So Brooklyn, can you get started by telling us about sort of what you do at Roots in the housing program?
Yeah, so the housing program was developed to support people who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, either maintain their current housing or find alternative housing.
Okay.
So whether they're in need of knowing about their rights and responsibilities as a tenant or need support with navigating the system, which could be looking at different rental units, finding viewings, financial supplements, or even just referrals to other organizations, we're here to help.
Right, so you're kind of a one-stop shop for not necessarily a quick solution, but a hand to hold you along the way to figure out how to make your next move.
Yes, the market out there is not easy to navigate, and so I find that a lot of people just need kind of that support and trying to find different listings and then talking to landlords and bridging those conversations about trying to rent them.
Of course, that's incredible, and I know that that's such an important thing to provide. Monique, for example, you have gone through the housing program at Roots and you benefited from those services. Could you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, so I was in a situation where I was on a time crunch to move out of my current unit and find another unit. So on my own, I thought, I'm confident. I can, fill out applications and things like that, but it proved to be a little bit more difficult than I thought.
Yeah.
I'm self-employed, so having to explain that to a landlord, I didn't understand how they would see it, and I was like, what's going on? So when I reached out to Roots, that's exactly what Brooklyn helped me with. She helped me word my words better, change up my application style and things like that. And also what really helped is when I did find a unit, I was a little bit nervous about the landlord, if this is gonna be safe. So she actually came along and came with me at the signing of the lease. And there were some little holes that he had about whether certain things were going to be allowed in the lease, and she knew the law, which I didn't know those things, so she was able to say at right point, no, you can't do that. And it kind of helped, made it a little bit more comfortable. I felt being on my own, I felt landlords kind of overlooked me or felt like they knew more. Maybe they did, but having her there, it gave that little bit of authority. So anytime I was a little bit deer-struck about something, I could look at her and she was able to. So it was such a beneficial support. Again, I thought I was confident, but learning the market and stuff, that it was so beneficial to have someone there to kind of hold your hand.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that just about anyone could use the support, especially folks that are facing homelessness or are at risk of homelessness. That's a really scary situation to be in. There's so much uncertainty involved, and having a friendly face along the way, I'm sure didn't help at all, or didn't hurt at all either, right? No,
absolutely. And then she was so kind, so it took off that stress and that anxiety. You have somebody there with you.
Yeah.
Someone knowledgeable too.
That's incredible. Yeah. So Brooklyn, could you tell me a little bit more about the folks that you serve? You say at risk of homelessness. What does that really mean?
So that could be someone that is already renting a unit and maybe their landlord has decided they wanted to evict them or increase the rent substantially or try to move somebody else in. A lot of the time, tenants don't know about their rights and responsibilities. Therefore, they'll just leave and think that the landlord knows what they're saying. They'll sign the documentation and then they'll leave, and they really don't have to.
Right.
It's a whole process to get somebody evicted, and there's steps you have to take, and the landlord knows this, but more often than not, the tenant doesn't.
Right. And you were also mentioning that you refer some of your clients to other organizations for further support. Could you detail maybe some of those other supports and what they are?
Yeah, so the Legal Clinic is one of them. So I'm happy that you're going to be talking with them next.
Yep.
They have been a great support when it comes to this program and supporting me with trying to keep clients housed and prevent evictions from happening.
Of course.
I also work closely with the York Region Outreach Team, who also supports our homeless folks in areas that maybe I can't. and I work closely with a few furniture places that are able to offer like discounted furniture to people that are moving into places.
Right.
And I am able to provide, we did our backpacking actually, so this one was cool. We developed 15 female backpacks and 15 male backpacks for those in the community that's experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
And it comes with items such as like bug spray and sunscreen and pads and tampons and water bottles and everything like that that you might need when you're kind of living on the streets or living a little bit rougher.
So it's a backpack full of supplies and resources for clients that you're serving?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We put in some flyers with some housing information and other resources in York Region that they could utilize.
Right.
So it was a really good hit, and I already had, like before the bags were even made, I had a bunch of people asking for them. So
that's incredible. That's so great to hear that that support is out there. I'm just wondering now, where are you located and who are you serving?
So I'm supporting individuals that are in Georgina and Newmarket for right now.
Okay.
And it's free. It's a short-term case management case management service that's kind of free to anybody that needs it, as long as you're struggling with your housing situation.
Right. Okay, that's incredible. And so you work for Roots. Are you located in the office in Sutton all the time? Do folks have to go there to benefit from your services?
So they can meet me in person at the link. I am there Monday, Wednesdays, and every second Friday. And they can also reach out to me via email, phone call. I can flex my schedule if they work full time and need me to work outside of my hours.
Right.
I can do any virtual meetings if they work better that way.
Yeah. Now, Monique, what was your experience working alongside Brooklyn? Not necessarily in what she was doing, but how she was meeting you.
Yeah, so I think our first conversation was over the phone, where I kind of dumped my story on her and so just over the phone. Then we set up a plan for if I had an appointment that she would come along. So I would, we did text. I'm a texter, and she was really accommodating with that. And so I would text her the appointment information, the location, and if she was available, she would meet me. I think also we met in person. We also did a grocery shop.
We did a grocery shop.
Yeah, she took me grocery shop. Well, I don't know you personally, but she took me grocery shopping. I think Roots provided
for the program.
For the program.
Right.
So yeah, we met in person. We talked on text. I shoot her a message whenever I needed her, and she would get back.
That's incredible. So you're split between Georgina and Newmarket then?
That's correct.
And so what kind of does that look like? What's your presence in Georgina? When are you available to support folks?
Yeah, so my schedule is 9 to 5, but like I said, I can flex it if it's going to best support the individual that I'm working with.
Right.
So I don't mind doing that at all. I also attend community events.
Right.
So I do like the church dinner, I attend the lunch at the link, the fresh food markets.
Incredible.
So anybody could reach me there as well.
So you're finding ways to get out in the community and reach the people that you really need to support. Okay, that's incredible. To become a client of yours, though, what is that process kind of like?
Yeah, so I do have a referral form.
Yeah.
And so typically if somebody reaches out to me via phone call or email, I'll send them the link to the form, and then they can complete it, which will give me all the information I need to best support their needs.
Great. And so do they need already to have a social worker on their team to get that done, or no?
They could either do a self-referral, or if they are working with someone and maybe they don't feel comfortable doing it on their own, then that agency could also do the referral with them.
Incredible. And Monique, how did you find the process of becoming a client with Roots?
Interesting enough, through the legal clinic.
Really?
Right. So I got a referral through the legal clinic for actually outreach, an outreach worker who helped me understand the urgency of my situation and those kind of things. And when I told her my specific needs, that's when she referred me to Brooklyn.
That's incredible. Oh, no, that's amazing. And it's so important to make becoming a client accessible, right? And I know that that's sort of a challenging barrier when you're facing clients that maybe you might not have a perfect place to reach them all the time. So making it accessible for them to be able to apply on their own or with supports from another organization is huge. That's incredible. With the housing program in a larger scale, let's say, what kinds of other things are you doing? I know you mentioned some workshops, that backpacking event. What's it looking like for the future? Any plans, any ideas?
Yeah, so we do have our housing workshops. We did one in Georgina and one in Newmarket back in December.
Incredible.
And we just kind of had people come in and do some presentations on like housing and legal resources within York Region and kind of educate any residents or staff members or anybody interested on what's out there.
That's
and
incredible.
So we do plan on doing another one in Georgina, another one in Newmarket.
Okay.
But the dates have not been determined.
Details
just
still yet to come.
Yeah, details still yet to come.
That's incredible, though. I know that's such a useful resource, and I know that it's a great opportunity to learn more if you're in the situation, if you're a renter or landlord, but also just for the everyday person, because you never really know where tomorrow might take you, right?
Well, and all the agencies are there in one spot. It's kind of a good way to get people to be able to connect with maybe me or the community legal clinic if they need to. So I kind of like having a workshop like that too, where people can come in and actually utilize the service.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any other maybe success stories or highlights from your time as a housing services navigator that you could tell us about?
Yeah, so I think like the big difference with this program versus maybe a different program is that I really wanted to look at the gaps that were in the system and ways that we could fill it.
Right.
So I don't only just support somebody in trying to find housing or maintain their housing. I will offer that grocery shop at the end so that they can get a startup and get their food, or one individual who's moving from one place to the next can't bring the bed with them. So I was able to work with him on purchasing a mattress and figuring out, getting a volunteer to drive it down to the new place. So kind of filling the need there. He didn't need my help finding the housing, but he needed helped him along the way and to send all those documents and to get the lease signed. So sometimes it's not even trying to find housing, it's just being able to navigate the system to be able to get to that point.
Right. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And it's great to see that support available, right? Monique, if there was one thing you could say to somebody who was looking for support in this program, what would you tell them?
So many things. It's really, what I found what really helped me or helped me even understand was just having somebody to communicate my situation.
Right.
Before even asking for help.
Right.
I don't always know exactly what I'm asking for or what I need.
But they help you put that into context. And you have
some agencies that will say, okay, tell me what you need. And then you're like, I don't know, I'm struggling with this. And if you don't know what the resources are out there. So
exactly.
I would definitely advise somebody to just reach out. Like even if it's not, like she said, a direct housing thing or, something specific, just if you're in a situation that has to do with your living circumstances, I would definitely advise people to just completely reach out.
Incredible. Thank you both so much for joining us today. That was some great information. Next up, we've got the Community Legal Clinic of York Region joining us to talk about eviction prevention. Welcome back to Georgina Connects. Next to me here, we have Stephen Lee, the paralegal at the Community Legal Clinic of York Region, to chat with us about eviction prevention and legal supports. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Could you maybe tell me a bit about what you do at the Community Legal Clinic of York Region?
Sure. So I actually wear quite a few different hats at the Community Legal Clinic. So for viewers who are familiar with the Community Legal Clinic, we provide free legal services for residents of York Region. We're publicly funded by Legal Aid Ontario, and all of the services that we do provide are free and confidential.
Wow.
For myself, I'm on the housing team, and I'm on the sub-team of eviction prevention. So what that means is that for tenants who are extra vulnerable, maybe they have mental health conditions, we have supports that are geared towards that subset of York Region residents. I also am part of the public legal education piece, which means that what we do is we go out into the community, currently partnered through different libraries or different community organizations, and we provide legal education for tenants who are interested, and also landlords who are interested in learning a little bit more about the law.
Okay, that's really interesting, and it's super fascinating to hear that you support vulnerable populations in really big ways, which is really great to hear. Could you maybe tell me a bit more about your presence and how you support the people in Georgina?
Sure. So that's a great question. So tangentially, the next legal education program that's near here is actually in East Gwillimbury.
Okay.
So it's not quite Georgina.
Next door.
Right next door.
Yeah.
We do have dates lined up. I believe May 7th is the next one. And we are also in consultation with the public library here in Georgina to arrange dates whenever they're available. So if you're interested in that service, if you live in Georgina or surrounding areas, just contact your local library.
Keep an eye on the library to see if anything like that is up and coming.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense.
And the whole purpose of this program is to make sure that most of the time when we see folks, it's when things are kind of at their most dire.
Right.
And the purpose of these types of programs is to make sure that we get that information out there first, so that if people are comfortable representing themselves, then great, or B, they have a better understanding of, okay, this is a matter that I need help with.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've got some in-person workshops. Now, to get a hold of someone on your team, is there anywhere in Georgina that they're able to do that, or is this something they're looking online for?
Sure. So that's a great question. Unfortunately, because we're publicly funded, we're not able to really stretch our resources to have a physical presence in Georgina.
Right.
We are reachable by phone and by email, and we are also in the process of launching a new virtual online intake process.
Okay.
But unfortunately, if you want to see us in person, typically you would be either making arrangements for us to come out to see you, or alternatively heading down to our offices in Richmond Hill.
In Richmond Hill, okay. And public transit does travel that far.
Sure.
But you mentioned making arrangements for you to visit the client. What does that really look like?
Right. So for clients who are on the EPP roster, right? So you would have to make certain qualifications, right? Such as the low income, such as the mental health. And then for those individuals who are particularly vulnerable and they're facing eviction, we would often come to where they are or where they feel comfortable to meet, because ultimately we do understand that transportation is difficult.
Right. No, it definitely can be such a barrier for so many people. And that's really great to hear that you're able to go out of your way to meet them where they are. I think that's really important, and it's definitely filling a gap where there is one, right?
100%. I think it's important as much as we try to utilize the resources that we have to make sure that we don't use a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to our clients.
Absolutely. Sure. And so I understand that you wanted to chat more about the newcomer education piece. Could you tell me more about that aspect of your operations?
Right. So the newcomer education piece was what I alluded to previously with the tenant education program. It's a 5-part program, but most of the libraries are doing combining the 5 parts into 2 different sessions.
Okay.
And that covers basic stuff like what is or isn't legal in a lease, or alternatively, what do I do if I get a notice of eviction?
Right.
And what do the parts of the eviction look like? What needs to be correct? What can I look forward to in terms of a process?
Right.
What can I expect at the landlord and tenant board?
Okay.
All those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that sounds pretty all-encompassing, pretty broad, and it looks like it'll support a lot of different people.
Right.
I'm thinking, so this is for newcomers specifically, right?
So we are not checking IDs at the door, obviously. Right. So if you are a newcomer or an oldcomer, as I'd like to say, everyone is welcome. Ultimately, if you interface with someone who is coming here, or if you don't, this type of information is useful for everyone,
right?
Tenants or landlords alike. From my perspective, my apologies. From my perspective, it's not all landlords are evil. It's the fact that sometimes landlords are misinformed.
Right, and I think that's a big miscommunication, misinformation out there, is that landlords are always out to get you. Right. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, you can come across some difficult ones, and I'm sure you can attest to that, but it really is about education and understanding. And it seems like you're trying to support the community in tackling that sort of challenge and that bias.
100%. We're willing to go to where the community is. So if there is a a need in Georgina for this type of presentations, we're more than happy to come out as many times as it takes. Wherever there's a need,
right,
we will be there.
That is incredible to hear. Now, the Community Legal Clinic of York Region is more than just eviction prevention and that kind of thing. Are there other services that maybe the folks of Georgina might be able to utilize?
Sure. So ultimately, we are free legal clinics. So because we're publicly funded, we are limited to 4 different areas of law.
Okay.
Housing, obviously, immigration, employment, and social assistance.
Okay, that's incredible. And so, like you mentioned, this kind of follows the same format as what you discussed prior.
Similarly, for sure. So you would have to contact us to see, sometimes, a lot of issues are complicated. Sometimes you have issues that cross different boundaries. And if you do experience anything that is not in those 4 different categories of law, please contact us anyway. We'll know where to direct you to get that further assistance.
For sure. And so if there was any piece of advice you could maybe give somebody watching who's struggling with maybe a difficult landlord or an eviction situation, what would you want to tell them?
So my thing that I tell everyone who comes across my path is to document everything to the best of your ability, and then try to be proactive. I know it's difficult, it's difficult because everyone's trying to work on a day-to-day, everyone's trying to go for the next meal, but ultimately the landlord and tenant board really requires some level of evidence. So if you can just record it, it'd be much better for you later on.
And so recording can be documentation, like what does that really look like?
Great question. So recording can be the notes that you make yourself. It could be a recording of a phone message. It could be an email. It could be a receipt. It could even be, so in Ontario, it's a one-party state for recording. So you could secretly, quote unquote, record your landlord.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's news to me.
For sure.
That's incredible. And that's kind of why this education is so important.
Now you know.
You can learn something every day.
And now our viewers know as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that I was curious about, though, when it comes to the services that you're offering, there seems to be a lot of great stuff that you offer in-house. Do you work with any other organizations?
Sure. So obviously we have a lot of partnerships with a lot of different organizations, which I'm not able to list off the top of my head. But yes, with regards to those referral services that I alluded to earlier, there is a long list. And I believe we have a PDF in the office that we refer to, and that PDF is more than 4 pages long. So,
right.
Yeah.
And now when it comes to online resources like that, I feel like somewhere in the community, I've seen some literature from you guys about the services you provide, tips and tricks. Is there more that you could expand on there about how people can access that, what is available online from you?
Right, so that's a great question. With regards to the online information, there's a separate clinic called Clio, which is dedicated for education purposes only. So that is the clinic that we get most of our literature from.
Okay.
And they are dedicated, so they don't actually do any sort of public-facing interface.
That's where you guys kind of step in.
Right.
Okay.
But they do refine and update laws and materials as the law changes from time to time.
Right.
So they will provide the most up-to-date legal information. So if you just search Clio, not the clothing store.
Okay. That's good to know, definitely.
Yes, but they will have information on there. And you can go on there, you can search whatever it is that you need to know, and they will have some advice on there for you.
That is incredible. And now, so I'm really thinking about the folks of Georgina here. Is there any way they may be able to get more involved with what you're doing?
Okay, that's a great question. So with regards to folks in Georgina and getting involved in our program, if you have, like I said previously, if you have enough people or enough interest, reach out and we can try and arrange private sessions for people who are interested in that. Ultimately, it doesn't just have to be through the public library system.
Okay.
We have made arrangements with other organizations, such as the Ukrainian Settlement Program, such as the Taiwanese Association. Mm-hmm. So it really just depends on the need.
For sure. And what kind of impact have you seen in Georgina, or what need have you seen in Georgina in recent history?
For sure. So that's a great question. Most of the statistics that we have in the clinic is not limited to Georgina itself.
Okay.
So we have seen at the Landlord and Tenant Board a 27% increase in applications.
Wow.
year previous, and in the past year, an 18% or 19% increase in applications.
Wow.
And majority of those applications are landlord applications. So we're looking at like around 89%, which is a vastly disproportionate amount. So
it really is.
what that means is that, tenants are really on the shorter end of the stick.
Right.
And we've also seen, unfortunately, the amount of bad faith applications from tenants double year over year.
Right. Wow.
So in terms of what we can do for Georgina, Georgina is part of a greater whole. We don't really have any Georgina-specific information, unfortunately.
But it's on sort of your bigger map.
But it's on the bigger map, and we're doing our best to try and alleviate this type of issue in the entirety of York region. Obviously, there is a saying that the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're running right short on time. Where can people go to find out more information?
Well, you can go online, you can call us, or if the information is provided on the screen.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Georgina, for tuning in. We've got so much great information today, and we can't wait to see you next time.